That's the day my life changed forever.
That's Susie Warden, and she lost her left eye when she was hit by a stray bullet from a road rage shooting. At the time, she was working inside the Sullivan hardware store, but shots were fired outside along Keystone Avenue.
Rich and I talked to her today after she testified at the trial of the Indianapolis man who was found guilty of pulling the trigger.
In March 2023, Marquise Tipton fired 6 shots at an SUV he thought he was just in a crash with at 71st and Keystone. 2 bullets hit the car, which was not the car in the accident. Another bullet came through the wall of the yellow house at Sullivan Hardware and hit cashier Susie Warden in the face. She lost her left eye.
I think it's unfortunate that anybody would just pull out a gun and do what he did. I think that's very unfortunate for anybody. But I don't really have any feelings like, I don't know. I mean, I don't hate him. I just think it's sad, is what I think.
The judge found Tipton guilty of aggravated battery and 2 counts of criminal recklessness. The defense presented no evidence, and Tipton did not testify in his own defense. But he had plenty to say outside the courtroom. Marquise, did you want to say anything?
Nope, give me one moment. If you wanted to ask me a question, you would have asked me when this happened.
Tipton remains free until his sentencing on April 29th.
You see, they never tried to get the driver of the car they hit me, did they? They didn't even care about that. They didn't care about my kids being in the car and being hurt. They didn't do any of that.
Warden now has a prosthetic eye and shrapnel permanently lodged in her forehead, but she has returned to work full-time at Sullivan Hardware.
People think it's the worst thing in the world that could have happened to me, but I don't think so. I think dying would have been pretty bad, So losing the eye, I wish I had it, but I don't.
But she never lost her great attitude. Rich Knight, 13 News.
Tipton faces a minimum sentence of 3 years and a maximum of 16 years, but that sentence may or may not include prison time. Ladies?
Hope you enjoyed the mild temperatures today. Felt really great out there. Now as we look to the west, we see this. Yep, rain, it's headed our way. And we are tracking the impact of it moving into central Indiana. Angela's been keeping an eye on it for us in the Weather Center. And so what's the timeline?
Well, it's still dry. So if you've been inside most of the day, we did make it into the 60s for most of us. You have a little time before the rain gets here. Really in earnest after 7 o'clock for most of us.
Okay.
So we're going to answer the when and the how much. Let's start with how much rain we're expecting. Anywhere from a ½ inch to, on the high side, an inch of rain. Some of these totals may end up being a little lower just because the low atmosphere is still so dry. The when now through very early tomorrow morning. The impact, heavy rain, some thunderstorms, and may get a few gusty thunderstorms as well. When we get the heavy rain, some street flooding and slower travel will be possible. So keep that in mind as we head through the late evening hours. If you're coming downtown, Pacers hosting the Rockets. It's a 7 o'clock tip. Temperatures will be in the 60s early on. If you hurry into the field house, you'll beat the rain. On the way home, however, the roads will be wet. You can see with Future Track 13 by 7, 8 o'clock tonight, we're going to be dealing with the heavy pockets of rain, gusty thunderstorms possible during the late evening hours. This will move out, but we are not done with this weather system. There will be some wet roads for the Wednesday morning drive, and then come tomorrow afternoon and evening, we will see that rain change over to snow. I'll have all of that in the full forecast.
All right, thanks so much. And don't forget, you can always track the rain as it heads our way with our interactive radar that we have all organized for you on the Live Doppler 13 weather app. If you don't have it, go get it. It's a free download and you can find it in your phone's app store.
Tonight, a 57-year-old Lawrence man is dead after an alleged argument over loud music.
Our Matthew Foltz talked with neighbors who woke up today learning this tragic news.
Lawrence police tell me that 57-year-old man was found in the middle of the street right next to that silver car earlier this morning. And I spoke to 2 men who live in this neighborhood and say they were friends with the man for decades. And they say he should still be here with them.
Ralph did not deserve this at all. This was a senseless act and could have been worked out a better way. ridiculous.
Raw emotion from Charles Green after he found out his friend had been shot and killed just blocks away from his home Tuesday morning.
We all know each other, so this isn't anything that we would expect. We work things out in this neighborhood.
Lawrence police tell me officers got to the scene shortly after 5:30 this morning along Kingsborough Court just off of 46th Street. Once on scene, they found a man who was shot in the street. He was transported to the hospital where he later died.
He goes to work, he comes home, he walks his dog, and that's all he does. It's real friendly.
Police say the person who pulled the trigger was taken into custody for questioning. Investigators say an argument over loud music led to the shooting.
It's just senseless. This gun control's out of control. These young kids don't need to be carrying guns. They're just taking matters in their own hands. It's not good.
LaPatrick Wright also lives in the neighborhood. He and Green tell me that they've had issues in the past with the suspect playing loud music from his car late at night, and that car was the focus of the police investigation Tuesday morning.
It's just sickening when you got someone who wants to take care of the neighborhood.
Violence like this is not necessary, it's not needed, and we're not going to put up with it in this neighborhood. We're not doing it.
Now, Green and Wright tell me they want to prevent anything like this from happening again in their neighborhood. So they say they're going to work to come up with a plan to speak with youth about the gun violence in hopes of keeping them on the right paths. Reporting on Indy's Northeast Side, I'm Matthew Foltz, 13 News.
The Marion County coroner now working to identify the identity of the man who was killed. We'll update you on all of our platforms once his name is released to us.
And nearly 2 months later, the Marion County coroner is ruling the shooting death of a man in an East Side home as a homicide.
In this case, officers say they found the man and a woman shot to death inside a home near East 21st Street and Emerson Avenue. They made this discovery really in early January. Neighbors had called police saying maybe a welfare check was warranted because they noticed that something out of the ordinary was happening at the house.
The coroner ruled that 57-year-old Deborah Russell's death was a homicide shortly after the shooting, but they had not determined the manner of 60-year-old Lau Quinnette's death until today. And developing tonight, Lafayette police are now saying they believe 2 women found dead in an apartment were targeted. Officers found the bodies of 34-year-old LaPortia Chenette and 28-year-old Khadijah Ross Saturday morning at an apartment near I-65 and South Street. They have since revealed the apartment belonged to Chenette. Detectives say they found shell casings and a small caliber gun at the scene as well. And Indiana law opponents say violated free speech and could see some changes.
Lawmakers have now proposed a bill that would change some of the language in the state's encroachment law. This is a law that was passed 2 years ago. What is it all about? What are the changes? Emily Longnecker breaks it down.
That original law created a 25-foot buffer around police doing their job. That law faced 2 separate lawsuits, and one of those lawsuits led to an injunction, which means the law is not currently being enforced. Authors of this proposed bill say they want to add language to that law that they believe will take away the vagueness alleged in those lawsuits. As the current law is written, an officer can ask someone to back up 25 feet from an area where police are working at a crime scene or in the process of arresting someone. If the bystander disobeys police commands, they could be arrested and face 60 days behind bars and a $500 fine. The law came under fire in 2 separate lawsuits, one brought by members of a media coalition, including WTHR's parent company, Tegna. That lawsuit argued the law prevented journalists from doing their job and being able to exercise their First Amendment rights. A judge agreed and issued a temporary injunction. The state of Indiana appealed that decision. The case is set to be heard next week. The ACLU also sued on behalf of a citizen journalist. A judge ruled against the ACLU's argument that the law violated the constitutional right to observe and record the police. The ACLU has appealed that decision. Now, House Bill 1122 adds language to the original law, saying an officer can ask someone to back up if they believe that person's presence interferes with the officer's ability to do their job.
Laws are written in black and white. The real world is very gray. So it's up to the officer at that moment to interpret what's going on. And if that person's just casually standing there, it's probably not a situation where the officer is going to be concerned about it, depending on the situation. There are a lot of elements that can come into play there. But if that person's coming up, escalating the scene, trying to cause a little bit more chaos there, that certainly gives the officer reason to pause and say, hey, no, you don't need to be here.
And there was no debate on this law today. It passed out of the Senate's Corrections and Criminal Law Committee by a unanimous vote. It now heads to the full Senate, where changes can be proposed by it and considered. At the Indiana State House, Emily Lawmaker, 13 News.
And tonight, 2 executive orders focused on transgender Hoosiers are now law after Governor Braun signed them.
So one order bans transgender women and girls from participating in women or girls sports at schools in Indiana. The other order states there are only 2 genders in Indiana, male and female.